Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, in our last video we showed you how to create this little hover effect for your menu. As you can see, the items are changing color when we hover over and getting a little background. We had a great question on that. Somebody asked, well, what if I just want to do that to one? I want to have one of them different. And you see this quite a lot on a lot of websites, quite often with the contact. So that's what I've done. We got a completely different styling for this little link here. And this will work on any WordPress site. We just happen to be using the Divi theme for this today. Really easy to do. So let's undo all this and we'll get started. Okay, well, I've undone that now. We've just got a default Divi header here with a default WordPress menu up here. Got a drop down on that one. And they all look exactly the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my dashboard. I'm going to go down to Appearance and then Customize. That's going to take us to this page here. And you'll see whatever's set as your front page here. Usually that'll have the same menu on it, so that's fine. But if you need to change it, you can do so in Homepage Settings. Any published page, you can temporarily set as the home page, then change it back if you want to see it for editing purposes. Now I'm using Google Chrome here, but most browsers have this nowadays. Let's go to the Contact Me and say that's perhaps what we want to change here. I'm going to right click and hit Inspect. That brings up my inspector tools here. I've got elements selected one side, so I've got HTML code. I've got styles selected the other side. Like I say, most browsers have this nowadays, but if yours doesn't, Google Chrome is a free download. If we look over at the HTML side, as I hover over things, you'll see them highlight at the top of the screen there. I'm on our last little menu item here, and if we look at these, I'll try and zoom in on this when I edit this video. It's got a class name. It's actually got a class name of menu item 1027. If you look at all the other ones, 26, 25. So it's got a unique class name we can use to target just that one. So if I double left click on this, I can select that last class name. Every time there's a gap, that's a different class name, different class name, different class name. And it's fine to have multiple class names. I'm going to select that last one. I'm going to copy it, Control C. Now I want to bear in mind, I want to actually affect the menu item 1027. I want to affect the link, the anchor tag or the A tag that's connected to it. So I'm going to go back to my home page setting. Get rid of our little inspector there. Right at the bottom, you'll find additional CSS. If your theme doesn't have this, have a look at your documentation. There's probably somewhere you can add additional CSS. If not, there's plenty of free plugins you can add. That will enable you to add CSS. So I'm in my additional CSS panel. I'm going to give it a title. The title's /*/. Between the two stars won't be read as code, so it's a great place for notes and titles. And we'll just say menu color, and we'll drop down. I'm going to paste in that class name that I copied. And remember, I said I wanted to affect the anchor tags or the A tags, so I'm going to put the A after it. All class names, when you write them as code, have a dot or a period in front of them. That's great. We can now target this specific link right here. So let's open and close some curly brackets. And we want to sort of do the reverse of what we did yesterday. So perhaps I'll have the color white and our green background that we had going on. And then we'll give it a different color on hover. So firstly, let's give it a background so we can see it. And say background. I happen to know that green is #33 CEAD. And as you can see up here, we've put that background in. Fantastic. I want the actual text to be white. So I'm going to say color #FFF. Now we need to be a little bit careful here, because we're overwriting styles. So if these don't work, it doesn't look like that white's work there. These don't work. We have to force them by after the color, we can put exclamation mark and the word important. As you can see, that's done it. And the reason we have to do this on some of them is because we're overwriting the initial styles. We had no background on here, so we didn't need to force that. But it did have a background color of this dark gray, so we had to force this one. I hope that makes sense. Now let's change that padding. I know it's got a lot more padding on the bottom than we want. We used 8 pixels all round to make it kind of button shaped. So let's try that padding. 8 pixels. No change there. Well, let's try and force it. I'm just going to copy this one from above here. Paste it in there. That's better. That's turned it into that button shape. And we don't really need to adjust our margin here because these have all got that bottom margin, so the size of our header has not changed there. But we've actually got our nice little button shape. Great. Well, if you wanted to put rounded corners on there, you could do that by using border radius. Let's drop down one more. We'll say border, B-O-R-D-E-R, dash radius, colon. If you give it a small amount, such as 5 px, 5 px for pixels, you can see it's got slightly rounded corners on there. If you wanted to make it pill shape, you could bring that up to 50 pixels. And you've got a pill shape button. And you could add more padding left and right if you wanted to. I'm going to take mine back down to, well, I'm just going to have slightly rounded corners. I'm going to say 3 pixels on mine. That works for me. Great. So as you can see, that button is now completely different color from the rest of them. And we want to create a hover state for it. Now ignore all this from down here. Let's get rid of that, push it out of the way for you. That's nothing to do with what we're doing here. Okay, to create a hover state, I'm going to have a black background and perhaps the writing that green color. I'm going to copy our class name once again. From the dot to the A. I'm going to drop down. Right after the A with no gap. It's important you've got no gap there. I'm going to put a colon, then no gap again, the word hover. And we can create a hover state. Open and close some curly brackets. And we'll change that background. And we're going to change the color. So let's copy those. Now this time we might have to use important on the background as well, because we're overriding this top side here. And we're going to kind of swap these around so that 33CEAD, which is the green color, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to change that for the white, which was the FFF. And you can use RGBA colors, web colors, whatever you want here. I'm using hex colors. And this wants to be black. 000. See what we've got. Yeah, well, it's actually done it. And you could put a transition duration on it if you wanted to slow that down a bit. I don't think that green's a full green. I think the opacity's down on it a little bit. If I right click and inspect on it again, we did this with our other menu. Let's get the hover state up by clicking on hover. There's the hover. Yeah, it's got an opacity of 0 or 0.007, which is not quite fully visible. So if I force that to 1, which is fully visible, that green will be a bit more prominent. So I can do that on the hover state, opacity, colon, 1, which is fully visible. Obviously 0 is invisible, and you can have 0.1, 0.2, etc. But we need to force it again, because we're overriding the styles. And put a little semicolon. Always put a little semicolon in the end. If you don't, it won't read the next line of code within the curly brackets there. So I don't really need one there because there's no other code. But if we're going to put another line, you'd need to put one or it won't read it. Okay, let's have a look at this now. That looks okay. Now, of course, this will work on tablet and mobile, but there's not really much of an advantage to it because they have to tap on those devices. If I switch to iPad now, there's our menu. We've still got our slightly colored thing, but nothing would be happening over because they don't hover over it. They just need to tap on it. When they tap on it, it would actually do what they wanted to, but they're not going to see it. Same with the mobile, so it's still going to work fine on those devices. Let's flip back to desktop. Once you're happy with what you've got here, make sure you hit the publish button. Now, if we go back to one of our sites, I think this was the old one that we had last time. We did in the last video. If I refresh that now, I've put the drop downs under this one just for ease, so I didn't want them under the contact me. So let's refresh. We should have our new one. And there we have it. When I hover over, it's going to change color. When I click on it, obviously it's going to take me down to the contact. So there you go. I hope that's answered that question. There's how to decorate one single item. I think the question was just how to change color, and you saw how to do that. That was the first thing I did to change color. I just made it into a different shape just to keep it interesting. And this sort of thing you see on a lot of websites. So it's a nice thing to know. And don't forget, I'll put all this code down below the video for anybody that wants to copy and paste it. Obviously, you're going to have to change your numbers because they won't be the same as mine. So make sure you inspect yours and get your correct menu item numbers there. But apart from that, the rest of it should work. And like I say, this will work on any WordPress site. So you should be good to go. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.